What's up, Tube? Welcome back to Low Guido's Chop Shop, the second best gel blaster channel on the tubes. And today I've got a MPX, fresh out the box. Here it is. It's an MPX. It's from company Lihui or LH, the company who are responsible for bringing us such things as the Vector and the Org earlier on. They generally had a pretty good rep for making some decent little blasters, and now they've got this one. It looks, aside from the blue and white, which is the glaring obvious thing, it looks quite nice in the quality. Like the molding and everything looks pretty neat. Let's see what we've got in the box here. We've got a little mock suppressor unit, the stock, which looks like it's got nylon with metal inserts for your QD sling points, and metal rods here as well. So that looks like it'd be fairly solid. It feels fairly solid. Nylon mag, proprietary, obviously being that it is for MPX, you're looking 9mm-ish, so it's got the 9mm-ish kind of mag. Then we've got the blaster in here, and I can see in the bottom of the box there's also a charger, USB charger, and looks like a muzzle device and some other little piece and a screw there. That's interesting. Don't know what that bit is, but we'll probably work that out later. Okay, got it out of the box. Let's attach the muzzle device here. I don't want to call it a suppressor because it's not really. It's just a piece of plastic. It's got nothing going on in there. Counterclockwise thread. The proprietary magazine here has a mag door on top with mag terminals on it, and the feed comes out the front there. It's interesting. Clicks in there nice and solid. It does have ambi mag release here and here, which is nice. Okay, so the collapsible stock goes, right, okay, yep. So that piece in the bag, that's what that is. It's the piece that holds, it goes in there and holds the stock. So there's got to be a screw in there as well, I imagine. There it is. Screw comes with it as well. With in there with the other optional muzzle. If you want that one, you can whack that one on. Now, I mentioned the gaudy blue and white colors here. Interestingly enough, it does come with another box here. You don't have to buy it separately, it just comes with it, and inside that box is another receiver. Exactly the same, but black. So, probably be swapping that over a bit later on, I think. But for the moment, right now, let's just take a look at how it is out of the box. I did notice there's a battery in this upper here. So, do I need to push this button here and slide that off to get to the battery? There we go. So it looks like it comes with a 7.4 volt battery. Nice little slim one. Kind of needs to be slim to fit in that upper there. Very small amount of space there. So I'll just make sure this has got a bit of charge in it, and then we'll take it to the chrono and give it a quick test before we take it apart. Alright, pop the battery back in here. It is a little bit tight in here. Tuck that down in there, hopefully. And then slide the hand guard back on. Press the button. Sweet. Alright. Now, let's just check. Ooh, mag prime. That's cool. And how cute is the little 9mm style ejection port cover? Oh, there's also a little faux bolt release here. That works. Safety. Semi. Ambi controls. And full auto. Oh, listen to that. Fire rate is a little bit slow, but that is a 7 volt, so that's what we're expecting. Alright, let's I'm gonna load this thing up, put some gel balls in here, and we'll take it to the chrono and see how we go. So loading the mag, we've got some gel balls here. Just gonna fill them in. It's a long skinny mag, so it'll probably take a little bit to prime, and we'll see how we go. Alright, it's in there. Fortunately, you got the mag prime. So you can prime that bad boy up. We should be good to go. Alright, here we go. Put it in semi. Oh, it hasn't primed. Oh, there we go. Okay. Alright, here we go. Semi. Bit of prime for good luck. Bit more prime. Why is it not priming? Alright, here we go. Nothing. Why is that not? Alright, I have just worked something out here. I'm trying to chrono this thing and it's not feeding even when I prime the mags. Now, I don't know if you can see, this is probably, I should probably reorganize the camera, but it does appear that the mag terminals are wired backwards. So no matter how many times I prime this mag up, once you start pulling the trigger, it sucks all the gels back down the tube again. So the mags are actually running in reverse. It's the strangest thing I've ever seen. Hang on. Okay, check this out. So we've got the mag. While I've got this mag here, I'll show you how easy it is to disassemble. You take the cap off the bottom, and then you just you slide the outer away from the inner, and there it is. Very, very good. Easy disassembly for maintenance. I do like that. However, this is the interesting thing. So in this in the gearbox here in the front here, it's got a red wire at the front and a silver wire at the back. Generally red is positive, although with, you know, Chinese manufacturing you can never guarantee anything. And generally on most blasters, the wire that's closest to the hole is negative. Generally, and like, you know, there are some proprietary ones, but in most cases, the wire closest to the hole is negative. So that's red, and so I'm guessing that's positive. But okay, so we've got the inner of the mag here. We've got, I can't see which one is the positive and which one's the negative, but if I put a battery on these terminals here, should be able to see this wheel spin. Okay, so that one is spinning the correct way. Now I've got this other mag here that I've loaded up with gels. If I do it the same way with positive close to the hole, what's going to happen? Nothing. Okay, now let's flip it around to the regular way with negative close to the hole. Maybe I need to get a bit of... Oh, there we go, there we go. I need to lift it up to get a bit of gravity feeding into the wheel. But we got gels feeding up and coming out the hole when I have negative close to the hole. But interesting, like on this mag, it's the other way around. So is one of the mags is wired backwards. It's not the terminals in... I think this mag is wired backwards. I'm going to try this mag. I'm going to try this other mag, fill it up with gels, and see if that one works. Because... Oh, that was the weirdest thing. Alright, we'll try that. I think one of the mags that I've got here is wired backwards. Fortunately I've got two, but how odd is that I get one that's wired backwards? Alright, so I've got the mag here, no gels in the hole. Pop it in, prime it. I guess we've got to do it with gravity. In theory we should get some gels coming out here now. Alright? Alright, yes, gel's running out across the table. You can see there's actually gel sitting there in the hole. So, this magazine is wired correctly. Now that's interesting, like, of all the MPXs, of all the mags, I end up with the one that's wired backwards. And I'm the guy making the YouTube review. What are the odds? What are the odds? Do you reckon they're high? Or do you reckon I'm just lucky? Or do you reckon that's just gel blasters? I think that's just gel blasters in general. Just end up with some scuffed BS. Alright, let's chrono this thing for real this time. Alright, we got primed up this time. Hopefully we'll get some shots. I'll spin my box around the right way. That could have been interesting. Alright, here we go. Contact. Oh. That can't be out already. Do we have a jam? Alright, let's give it full auto burst. I don't know, a single one of those just read. They were definitely firing, but didn't read anything on the chrono. Or did they? Oh, that's weird. Oh, there we go. Right. I was going to say, it sounded like it was shooting. I could hear the distinct sound of gels hitting the back of the box, but for some reason my chrono didn't read a single shot. But I think what we can fairly accurately say is it's about 200 generally. I mean, we got a max of 210 and a min of 160, but like, you know, discarding the outliers from probably the odd weird gel or whatever, I reckon 200 is about the average of FPS. That's over 40 odd shots there. So we're looking 198, 191, 200, 199, 22, 203. There's your 160. So very, it's actually pretty consistent around the 200s. And when you given how short the barrel length on this thing is, 200 doesn't sound much, but I think it's actually pretty impressive considering it's got such a small barrel length. We'll see that in a minute. So we're going to take this apart now. One of the things that, I don't know if you can see it because of the white, the details, the embossing and everything on the receiver there. I'll see if I can get some close up for you so we can see it. It's actually quite a nice quality. See all the embossing, all the markings. Quite nice detail. Some of it you may not be able to see because of the bright white. But it is quite a nice quality nylon. It is a nylon blaster. So be that as it is. Just going to start tearing it down. I'm going to pull the battery out of it. Start here. That battery out the front. It does have an incredibly nice pop to it. I don't know if you could hear that in the video, but it does have a nice pop. It's also got this birdcage style muzzle that you can put on it. I might try that later on just to see if it changes the sound at all, because this one definitely does have a pop. I don't know if it is just from this muzzle or just due to the fact that it's a very short barrel. Sometimes short barrel gel blasters have a bit of a pop when they fire, so that's, yeah, it can sound different. Let's take it apart. Let's start by removing the items that we just installed. So I'm going to start with the stock, the Allen key provided. And that does actually come off the pick rail on the back there, which is a fun and interesting way to mount a stock. It's a bit different, but it's cool. Alright, next I'll knock this pin out here. And we'll see if we can get this upper off. Pin pops out nicely, is not retained because it just fell on my floor. And now we'll move it around to the front side. That one's a little bit tighter than the rear pin. Also not retained, but tight enough that it's not going to fall out. Alright, I will be removing... Oh, alright, so because we've got the front wiring here, we're going to be limited to how far we can initially pull this upper because the connector is going to be there. But I will probably be, yeah, so you can only go that far by default. But I will be exchanging this for the black one anyway, so I'll probably take all this apart. What is this that just came out? Oh, that's interesting. It's like a little piece at the back there. Oh, okay, interesting. I'll probably be taking this apart anyway because I will be putting the black upper on, so I'll probably be removing all these little pieces to exchange into the black upper and of course the black lower. I'll start with these bolts up the front here because I reckon they might free my battery cable and allow me to get into this a bit easier. Hopefully that's the case. And given that I'm replacing it anyway, it's gonna have to come out sooner or later. Now, how does it just come out? Alright, that seems incredibly tight. I wonder, I might take this button off. There's two screws there. I don't believe they appear to be retaining the barrel adapter there. But like everything, it's got to come off anyway, so might as well do it while I'm here. There could be a spring behind this, so just ease it off carefully. Of course there is a spring behind it. And no, it doesn't look like those actually, move that piece out of the way as well. Doesn't look like those actually go in there at all. So it seems very, very tight. I might need a bit of brute force and ignorance to get this out. Alright, I've got a little suppressory thing here that I'm going to use just to give me something to grab onto. I'm just going to give it a bit of a tap with the rubber mallet. Alright, just a little tappy tap tap. There we go, that is a very, very tight fit in there. Don't need this bit anymore. Look at the size of that outer though. Like the entire adapter and outer is incy, and the barrel for that matter. Look at this little tiny barrel. It's so small. It's a tiny little thing. Wow. Okay, for the volume counters. I noticed we can already see we've got the clear plastic gearbox that is I was going to say it's stereotypical Lehoy, but it's not because it's frosted, and usually the Lehoy ones are glass clear. However, this ported barrel is very stereotypical of Lehoy. I'd say that port for this barrel could even be a little bit further forward, in my opinion. But let's get some verniers out and measure this little barrel. Now, I am not joking when I say this is the smallest barrel I have seen on a gel blaster ever, except for maybe a couple of pistols. So it looks like about a 7.5, just slightly over 7.5, 7.55 maybe. And I can actually measure the barrel with the vernier as well because it's that small. Looks like 90 to the T. 90 to the T. That is crazily small. Proprietary T with the little interesting gel retainer thing. Not a big fan of these. They do stop, like, if you're unfamiliar with gel blasters, when you drop the mag, you'll always lose about 3 or 4 gels rolling out of the T-piece, and there's nothing you can do about that. Some people think it's like a fault, but that's just life. Some people are like, oh, why do the gels fall out when I remove the mag? That's just how it is. These little rubber seals here are designed so that when you do get a gel, it pops past that seal and it doesn't roll back out, which is a good idea in theory, but in practice I usually remove these because what it tends to do is, at the end of the day, when you've finished playing, the gels stay in there. And then they dry up and they shrink down, and then when you go to play next time, you grab your magazine, load it up, and it can't push past those dried up gels. They sort of glue themselves to the sides of the T-piece and the insides of the T-piece, and they can cause blockages, and they can even get, like, if they're up in this section of the T, they can get on the end of the nozzle, and they can prevent the nozzle from sealing in the T-piece, and then can give you, like, massive air leaks, so you lose a lot of FPS. So yeah, they can cause all sorts of dramas. So I don't like to keep that because I like to just let the gels fall out. I don't care if gels fall out when I remove my mag. Not fussed. It causes less drama just to not have that. But, you know, I guess LH think it's a good idea to keep that, and I guess it is neat for some people if that's what they're into. Just means that at the end of the day, I guess you need to be a bit more cautious, turn the thing upside down, fire it a few times, make sure there's nothing left in the chamber before you pack it away. Alright, moving on from our tiny little small boy barrel. Let's have a look at this upper. Not much more going on here with the upper, although I will need to come back to retrieve this tiny little ejection port dust cover, and I'll also be removing this charging handle and this piece. Not sure what that actually is. I'm sure it represents something in real steel, but I'm not quite sure what it is. It's not the bolt release, which is there. I don't know. It does nothing. It's a feature. Another thing that I don't think I noticed until after I sort of filmed the chrono ring section of this. The little bolt here does actually reciprocate with the shot, and if you have your little ejection port over that, it actually looks like a faux bolt reciprocating back and forth, which is actually pretty cool. I didn't notice it at the time, but it got pointed out to me after the fact. So that's a pretty cool little feature. It does make the gearbox a bit interesting, interesting and proprietary, because that's the thing that well, most V2 gearboxes, assuming this is a V2 box, it looks kind of V2-ish, but I dare say there's probably a degree of LH in there as well, doing their thing. But yeah, so it's got this return spring and mechanism on the top. You can see the wiring in the back here, which is for the mag prime. There's a micro switch in the back here, which when this charging handle gets pulled all the way back, it also can pull this bolt back into the micro switch here, which there's got to be a fire control unit in here, a MOSFET fire control unit, and that will prime the mag, assuming your mag's not wired backwards. And then the bolt release here, which may or may not work because I don't have the upper on. Oh yeah, it does work, there you go. Yeah, so very cool. Alright, well, let us continue breaking this down. We'll get to the motor section next. Look at this grip. The grip is actually a quite nice looking grip. It is textured and it does have a nice shape to it. It also looks like it might be hinged. Oh no, it's pinned. It's got a pin at the back and a screw at the front. Alright, let's get into that. Okay, see if we can knock this pin out in the back here. There we go. Small pin and a number 2 or a 2mm Allen key on this one. Don't know if I mentioned, but the screws on the upper were 2.5mm Allen key. Metal, alloy, cast alloy, motor block there. And inside we have some silver wiring, positive and negative marked with heat shrink, and a motor with a black tail cap. Might just need pliers to get these wires off. Okay, this is something incredibly interesting to me. The terminals, the wires, are not coming off at all, which leads me to think they've got some sort of special connectors here. So I'm just going to cut away some of this heat shrink and take a look at what they've got here. Yeah, so this is not a standard type of connector. It's like a one-way locking connector. This is very interesting. Let me bring you in closer. Alright, this is a real trap for young players here. I did grab my pliers and then just start pulling on this initially. And that is something that I would expect most people to do, even those who have experience with gel blasters. I have never seen this type of connector used before, and I don't know why they went this way. Obviously this is advantageous in that it's not going to slide off the connector ever, but it also means removing it's a real pain, especially when you've heat shrunk over the top of it, because you actually need to get a pin and push up on this tab here in order to remove these. It's actually quite fiddly. I don't know if you can see it on camera. It's hard to do from behind a tripod, but that's what you have to do. So So for all intents and purposes they look like a regular spade, but they've got a locking mechanism here that actually locks into that hole. And so when you put it on there, and if you pull on it, the more you pull the harder it locks. It just locks itself in there. So the only way you're getting that off is by getting a pin into this little part there, and then you can remove it. And it's actually quite easy to remove when you push that pin down, but without doing that it is very hard to remove, and you would not be able to easily do it. You can see this one, I actually pulled on it with the pliers initially, and you can see I've damaged some of the heat shrink here, but that's okay because I have to take that heat shrink off to get to the release button anyway, which is kind of annoying. That's the way that they've designed it, but just means I'm going to have to reheat shrink these afterwards. But yeah, like, keep that in mind if you do have the MPX and you're going to be pulling it down. And I mean, I imagine that a lot of people will, because they want most people want to put that black receiver on there. Sorry, let me just cut the rest of this off. Most people are going to want to put that black receiver on there, so they're going to want to access these motors and remove these wires. There we go. Alright. Wow, that was more painful than it should have been. Now, as I said, it's probably a good idea initially from Lehoy. They thought, oh, these connectors aren't going to fall off. But unfortunately, if you have to destroy the heat shrink to get to the tab to release them, and then, I don't know, I've never had that much of an issue with regular terminals, so I don't know. Anyway, there's the motor. You can see it does have a standard metal pinion, sintered. There is no grub screw here, which is interesting. It also is not fully pressed down onto the shaft, so that's also very interesting. I feel like maybe there was once a grub screw in there though. Maybe, and it just wasn't Loctited and it came out. I don't know. I will look for a grub screw inside the blaster when I tear it down. But yeah, trap for young players. If you are pulling the MPX down, you may damage your terminals if you try to reef on them with a pair of pliers, like I initially did. Just be aware, these are locking tabs. Alright, next I'm gonna undo the two Phillips head screws in the grip. These are usually a number 2 Phillips. We'll do a couple of turns. I feel like these are way longer than they need to be. Alright, there we go. Ah, interesting. I noticed the gearbox does have a little tab here for accessing the anti-reverse lever. That can be handy sometimes. Alright, let's remove the mag release. Looks like probably a number 2 2mm Allen key. Then we flick that onto the floor. That is alloy, and that is it does have this little ambi button as well, which is kind of cool. Now I will also be removing the ambidextrous fire select buttons. Now sometimes with these gearboxes you need to put the selector into a particular position to remove the gearbox. So I might leave them in first. I'll remove the bolt release because that needs to come off, because that in this instance is actually attached through to the other side. So that's got to come off, and it's all got to come off anyway. So it's like a small Allen key in here. Okay. Long grub screw holding that one. Hopefully that'll actually just slide upwards when I remove the rest of the gearbox. I'm gonna try and knock that this pin out here now. That was easy. Alright, now that the pin's out, hopefully be able to wiggle it out, or maybe I might just have to remove these selectors anyway. Alright, I'll just take them off. They are alloy, and there is a plastic detent behind them. That's one, and there's another one on this side. Quite tight. Again, careful not to... Oh, there's no detent. I was going to say, careful not to lose your detent. There's no detent on the offside. So must rely on only the detent from that side. Now, should we be able to get this to slide upwards? The bolt... Oh, there we go. Bolt release came out. And might just need to work with the selector to get it in the right spot to slide out. Okay, so it seems the hang up is on this ambi gear. When you try to pull it up, the ambi gear hangs up in this hole, so you just got to sort of flex that bottom of the receiver there a little bit to allow that ambi gear to pop out of that circle. And now we have freed the gearbox. Notice the ambi gear. Does have a little pass-through gear that flips over to the other side and connects with the main selector there. It's got a metal selector plate, which is interesting. I believe, I'm just going to remove that gear for now. Looks as if there's some tabs down here as well for some sort of switching. But what I will do is just see if I can pop this ambi gear off, maybe off this side. It may take a little bit of levering to get this gear off. Just a gentle wiggle, even pressure on each side. There it goes. These are actually a cast alloy gear pressed onto what appears to be a steel. Yes, a steel shaft, which is great. I like that a lot because this cast alloy is very weak and like you can break that quite easily. And I've had in the past blasters that have got these ambi gears with this same setup. They've got a shaft with the half circle on each end, and you press the gears on like that. But because the shaft was made from the same cheese as the gears, the shaft, the D would like just snap off easily. But this is a steel shaft, so that should be stronger. That's good. I like that design. That's much better than some that I've seen in the past. Alright, got the little bolt release there, so when your faux bolt goes back, the release locks there. That's generally pulled down by your tab here, which goes into that little hole. So when you push that down, it leaves that little thing down. Very simple design, and it pops out easy, which is nice. In fact, that can probably stay there. Oh no, it can't, because I've got to get to the screw underneath it. So I'm going to take that out. Alright. The metal selector plate here is actually somewhat retaining this gear here, so I guess I'll leave that there. I guess that's not really, doesn't need to come out. It can stay there. We don't need to get the selector plate. The wiring looks like it's all neatly sort of contained in little managed sections and everything. There's no excess wire looped around the place. It looks very well cable managed, which I like to see. I like a bit of cable management. Alright, looks like there's a bunch of little Phillips head screws around here and one Allen screw on the top that holds this big block in the front, which is what takes the brunt of your bolt when it comes forward. It does have the quick release spring door in the back end here, so you should be able to release this spring. Oh, there we go. turn it clockwise. And there's the spring. It's not a particularly massive looking spring, but seems fairly firm. I'd like to compare that to some other stock springs and see. I mean, it does look a lot like most normal stock springs. It could be like an M85, an M80. Just at a stab. And I'm going to remove this block off the top here, and I am somewhat hoping that when I do, it's going to bring with it there's another screw. Of course, there's always another screw. I'm hoping that when I remove this block, it's going to bring with it the whole blowback assembly of the little bolt, the faux bolt there and everything. Hopefully. Alright, there we go. So that whole upper assembly comes off. It's got a nice little spring in here. It's got two springs in here. It's got a big one and then a small one. I believe the small one's for when this is cocked all the way back, just to make it a little bit more effort to push the priming switch. Put that aside. It looks very V2-ish. I'd go as far as to say that's a V2. Integral mag terminals. So, yeah. Looks like a pretty nice box, actually. Lihui or LH or however you want to pronounce, I don't know how to pronounce it, have always been good at making gearboxes. Like, their gearboxes have always been solid, despite the fact that they are polycarbonate. They are good. They don't tend to snap like some gearboxes that are made of cast alloy, like the Wells gearboxes that just seem to snap. I'm just going to ease that spring out of there. It's a nice little spring, that one. I like it. And that now I should be able to remove. Should. All the tolerances in this thing are quite good. Like, nothing's just sort of falling apart. Everything needs to be prized. Alright. Is that an alloy trigger? That does appear to be an alloy trigger. Yeah. Metal gears, metal bushes. It's worthy of note also, I don't know if you care, but there is a indentation in there where the gear rotates, and vice versa. There is also an indentation there for the ambi gear. Now, a lot of gearboxes have got this indentation for the ambi gear, but not all gearboxes have that little indentation there. So that's something worth knowing if you did want to replace this with a V2 gearbox. I mean, obviously there's going to be some customizing with the mag terminals. You might lose your mag priming. I'll be honest, I don't think I'd bother, because the LH gearboxes in the past have been quite solid, so I just stay with the polycarb. But we'll we'll see, I guess, in the future if any of these break apart on us. Undo all the little screws. This is sort of taking me back to Gen 8 days. The screws are quite a coarse thread, maybe with the exception of this one because it's a smaller one, a smaller screw up above the cylinder there. They are all self-tapped into the polycarb. That's also a smaller screw. No, it's not. There's only one smaller screw. It's the same size as the others. Alright, last one. There's always one, isn't there? Okay. Let's open her up. Hopefully I've got all the screws out. Yep, okay. And speaking of taking me back to the olden days when you pull a gearbox apart and everything would just jump out of place and gears would fly everywhere, springs would go everywhere. Alright, so bushes, these look like 8mm J9 bushes. I could measure that. Oh, actually no, the J9s were 7mm, weren't they? Yeah, 7mm. Sorry, my memory lapsed for a moment there. 7mm J9 bushes. The original, the Gen 8s were 6mm, then they went to 7mm for the J9. The V2s were generally 8mm. The newer generation of V2s were 8mm, and then they sort of upgraded the Gen 8.5, I guess, to the 7mm. There seems to be quite a lot of thick grease here, but not a lot on the actual gears. Like, there's a lot of grease around the sort of bushes and around the tappet plate here, but not on the actual, like this spur gear doesn't look like it's got any grease on it. It looks like a fairly standard sintered gear set. Nothing to write home about. Interestingly enough, it is a nylon. Let me just remove that again. It is a nylon piston. Very reminiscent of, what's the piston that's like that? Is it the oh, so it's a nylon with one metal tooth, but metal gears. So not a fan of that. Seems like there's already a little bit of wear in there. Oh no, that's just grease actually. No, there's no wear on it. I was going to say there shouldn't be. I've only shot it at the chrono maybe 40 times or something. This O-ring all of this looks very much like Gen 8, Gen 9 type stuff. So the cylinder head, I'm going to say, although the nozzle's longer, the nozzle looks longer than a Gen 8, but it's the same style of tip, but I'd say with a longer nozzle. This looks like, I can't put my finger on which one of the Gen 8 style nylon pistons had the blowback feature on it, but there was one that had that, and it looks very similar to that. The disappointing thing about this is that if you want to keep your blowback action and you want to upgrade to a metal rack, then you need to custom make your piston. which I'll probably do with this. It's just a matter of dremeling out the back. It should be able to catch on the little blowback piece, which is here. Grabs that bit there. Now it'll be interesting to see what sort of vacuum or pressure or either or that this actually makes. Pressure. Okay, so the seal on the cylinder head leaves a little to be desired. Oh look at that. It actually obviously does create some vacuum, because there is 2 dried up gels inside the cylinder, which means it has created vacuum at one stage, sucked gels that have been sitting in the T-piece due to the fact that they can't drain back into the cylinder, and yeah, look, the air seal is nothing great. Probably put one of the green O-rings into it, and I'll probably even maybe upgrade that O-ring or something to get a bit of better air seal on that as well. Interesting tappet plate. Looks kind of like a really long Gen 8 tappet plate. There's a bit of a combination of like sort of Gen 8, Gen 9 vector sort of style of things going on here. It's very interesting, very interesting. Alright, well, a green O-ring for this guy. A green O-ring for this guy. Hopefully yeah, that feels a lot better. It's hard to actually hold it in place because of the fact that the cylinder head doesn't have a flange on it here, so it relies on the pin in the gearbox to hold it there. So it's not perfect. Could probably do with a little bit more attention, but it's definitely better than it was. Sort of reminds me, this is all very reminiscent of Gen 8 days, where basically everything had horrible seals from the factory. I think it was by design, horrible seals by design, because it was designed to keep the FPS low for Chinese markets, I believe. That's my theory. Alright, I might just leave it at that in terms of O-rings and stuff. There's certainly a lot of other things that could do with improving here, but I think I'll leave it at O-rings, and I might end up replacing this rack too, actually. Just not super fond of the plastic rack. Does seem like something that might get chewed out in the future. Hopefully it won't, but I guess I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. It is only running a 7-volt battery, so given that more often than not I will run an 11-volt battery, just got to go anti-clockwise. Yeah, that's a really interesting spring retainer, that one. I guess they've got like a little tab in there to stop it from wiggling around too much, but it's different. Anyway, so the battery that comes with it, as I was saying, is a 7-volt, and given the space allocated for it is only like that size. You can see it there. It's only that size. I do have the 11 volts that I usually use. They are similar size, length and height, but the width is it's one cell less. There's 2 cells. This has got an additional cell, so that you've got the extra thickness of that one cell, and that's enough to make it not fit in the allocated space. I guess if you aren't afraid of just letting the battery chill out in the handguard, you could probably go 11, but I don't think it's worth it at this point, given that I'm going to be running the nylon anyway. Yeah, it's probably going to be safe on a 7-volt. So yeah, I think we're good there. One thing I am going to do is take a look at this. Take a look at this barrel. This is the barrel. Look at how tiny that is. This is the outer, and the outer is tiny. But I mean, the inner, even when the inner is, which is the top and bottom, there we go. Even when the inner is fully inserted to the outer, I don't know if you can see this, but it still sits like a good 20 millimeters shy of the end of the outer, which is already short. So that is a tiny, tiny barrel. I'm going to upgrade that, and I just pulled that out with my hands. So there's like hardly any adhesion going there. I just literally just pulled that straight out. I don't mind that though, because it just makes it easy for me. I hate it when a T-piece is like super glued in or araldited in and you can't remove it. That's the worst thing. Don't glue your T-pieces. I mean, glue them in, but don't araldite them or super glue them. Use a hot glue, because that way if you ever want to change it, you can just heat it up, take it out, apply more hot glue on the new one and put it back in. And the hot glue will hold it sufficiently until the time that you want to remove it. So there's a tip. That is a tiny, tiny little barrel, and I'm sure I've got some offcuts of barrel that are longer than that, so I'm probably going to go with that. I'm just going to get some, I'm going to find an offcut that's an appropriate length. Alright, I found an offcut that is almost twice as long as the standard barrel, and that can go in there. And if I was to run this muzzle device, it would actually, in this case, it would be just poking out a little bit. This isn't what's actually going to end up on it. There's going to be, I think, a longer suppressor on there. So I want to have enough space to fit a hop-up and the suppressor. So I think I'll go with that that barrel. That is good length. Incidentally, this muzzle device serves another purpose, which I only realized after I had taken it apart. It actually will muzzle load Nerf darts or like half darts. It muzzle loads Nerf or foam darts and allows you to actually shoot Nerf darts, which is cute. I think the blue and white colouring and the ability to fire foam darts is some sort of way of getting around Chinese loopholes or something along those lines. Anyway, I'm going to pop this slightly longer barrel in and give it a bit of hot glue in there. Actually, by the time I hot glue that in there, that will probably sit almost flush with the end of that muzzle. Anyway, I'll get going on that one. I'm not going to film. Oh, maybe I will. No, I'm not going to film the hot gluing process. But if you are hot gluing your barrel, it pays to just warm the aluminium up a little bit beforehand, because hot glue, obviously, when it goes cold, it dries. So you want the barrel to be warm enough so it's not going to basically set the hot glue straight away. So just heat the barrel up a little bit with a heat gun, then you can get your hot glue on it and just push it in. In fact, I just press fit this barrel in, friction fit, and it is so tight, I don't even think that there is a necessity for hot glue in this situation. It's like the friction fit is really surprisingly good, and that, yeah, look at that. That actually just fits just shy of that muzzle, and you could probably still fire a Nerf dart. Alright, I'm gonna slap that back together, and I am going to prep the coloured parts to go onto the black section. So there's still a couple of things that have got to come off this upper. I've got to remove this charging handle, which is going to be just a matter of unhooking the spring, I believe, and yeah, just taking it out. Then there's this dust cover for the ejection port, and there's this other piece that I don't know what it is. So I'll probably just start with that one. It just looks like it's 2 Allen screws. Take that off, screw it into the new upper, and get things started. I need to prep the lower as well. There's probably a few little bits and pieces that need to go in that. Honestly, I don't know why this piece wasn't like a molding. Doesn't seem necessary. It's a 2-piece. It's literally 2 pieces as well. So it's like, that's 3 separate molds that the factory would have had to make. I don't understand why they've done that, but anyway. Oh, this dust cover is going to be a little bit tricky to get off, because it is just a press fit pin pushed in that way, and I'm going to have to try and work it out that way. So it is going to be a bit difficult. Just going to try and squeeze my long nose pliers in just down here behind this spring. I'll push that spring across as much as I can and try and squeeze them in there so I can get a grip on it, and just push it forward millimeter by millimeter until I've got enough that I can grab it on this end. Oh, there we go. Yeah, that came off easier than expected. Alright, now the last thing remaining in this blue upper is the charging handle, which you just release that spring, the whole thing comes out, and we're done. We're done on the blue upper. You can transfer that stuff into the black upper. Now, black upper should be as easy as it was to take out, but just in the opposite direction. Hook this spring here, and if I can get it under there from around the camera. There we go. The ejection port dust cover should just be a matter of pushing this back in from this side, like so. Done. You guys don't need to be shown how to screw these bits in, do you? It's pretty self-explanatory. I don't even understand what that bit's about, to be honest, but you know, just screw them in. You know what to do here, 2 screws, easy as. Okay, so to prep the blower, there's nothing to do. There's nothing to do, it's all done. We've already removed all this stuff. The blower is all done, and take a look at that. How much more the details pop on the black lower. Like, the same details are on the white lower. But like, can you even see them? You can't even see them. They just pop so much nicer on the black lower. Alright, so yeah, that's prepped, ready to go. All we gotta do is pop this bad boy back in there. Alright, don't forget to pop your ambi gears back in. Remember this this ambi gear on the offside has to flex the you got to flex the receiver a little bit to get it to pop through. It doesn't go through as easily as you would expect, perhaps, but it does go through pretty easy. Just got to flex that out a bit. Bolt release goes back in from the other side and slides into the little latch that you totally didn't forget to put in. And then we've got the long grub screw, which goes in here to secure that in. Got the pin for the receiver, which I'll actually push through from the other side because I like to do that. I like it to come from this side. It's just a personal preference. Give it a little bit of a light tap from the other side, and the rear pin. Then we got the selectors. These are easy because you can only put one. You can't get it wrong. They only go one way. The offside one only screws into the offside, and the regular one only screws in to the regular side, so you can't go wrong. Don't forget to lose your detent, which will be there. And then we got this one in there. Mag release next. We've got the spring, the ambi mag release lever. Actually, the lever goes in this side and the spring goes on the other side. And then the button and the screw for said button. Alright. Getting there, getting there. Alright, we're gonna whack the pistol grip back on. 2 Phillips head screws in the bottom of this. See if you can knock your camera over in the process. Alright, time to pop the motor in. Remember that for reasons that I don't quite understand, they do have very, very difficult to release terminals on these wires. So make sure all your business is in order before connecting these up. And then you got this base plate to screw in and drive that pin through. Alright, there is one more thing that I have to do with the upper that I neglected. That's this little button here, little spring-loaded release for the handguard. So just gotta put these 2 little screws in here to hold that guy on. Now I can put this on now before these screws that hold the outer, because they don't actually screw into the outer at all. The outer was a very tight friction fit, so so when I put it in originally, I removed those screws as well, although it was not necessary. It's just the 4 screws, 2 on each side there, that hold it in. Where is it? Here it is here. Don't forget, we're going to have to thread the wire through, the battery cable through, before we put this in. That bothers me. I wish there was a way that this would go through, because once it's through, the cable, the termination on the end prevents you from being able to slide it back through, so that makes removing the upper a bit of a pain, because it's you literally got to cut the end off of it or remove this to take the upper off, which is a bit annoying, but that's how it is. Oh, whatever. Let's push on. Slide this through here, and then we'll get this in. There is a little slot there where it fits in, and it is, as I said, a tight friction fit. Now, this outer is a very, very tight friction fit to get in there, so it's going to require a little bit of persuasion. So I think before we get too persuasive with it, I will maybe get this upper on. It's a little this little metal thing at the back is interesting. It's got 2 pins which lock into the back of the receiver there, and then the top of this actually slots into the back of the upper, so that essentially joins them, which is an interesting way of doing it. I've never seen that before, but having said that, just the way this lower is designed with this rear section is different to most blasters, so that's, I guess, a little to be expected, that there is a slight difference in the way that it does retain itself in the rear there. Alright, now front pin. Very tight fit on the front pin, and again a very tight fit on this outer barrel support. I will have to persuade that with a medium persuadertron. One medium persuadertron. Tappy tap tap. Looks like those holes are lined up. Sweet. Alright. And 2 screws either side. Good to go. And there is of course a handguard matching. Still got bubble wrap on it. That also comes with it. Now, I've left this this blue muzzle device on here because ever since I found out that this was possible, I've wanted to do this. That is just too funny. I can't get over that. Whee! That is too good. That is too good. Anyway, sorry. Let's look. I'm gonna change this to the bird cage, and I'll be right back. Alright, I've changed back to the bird cage flash hider. You can see the longer barrel that I've installed in there is just shy of the end of that flash hider, but there's numerous other things that we could do on the end here. It'll probably be a hop up and a suppressor, and so that's not going to stay the same. I've got some other plans in mind for this as well. For example, this handguard is not going to stay, but let's just enjoy the appearance of this as it is in all black. It looks wonderful. It's nylon, it's all nylon. Well, with the exception of like some metal parts like these rails, these rods, the switches, the trigger, the flash hider, charging handle, and the base plate for the motor. But having said that, it is a nice quality, and it is a good, I don't know, it feels like a good grassroots gel blaster. Like I got nostalgic opening up the polycarb gearbox with the Gen 8 style nozzle and cylinder, and even the Gen 8 style compression with like garbage seals and all that sort of stuff. I do like it. The mag that came wired backwards was a bit odd, so I'm going to have to fix that one. Just that's an easy fix. Just swap the motors wires around, or the terminals around on the mag. I thought originally it might have been inside the blaster was flipped, but then when I tried the other mag, it was okay. And it's easier to change one mag than to change the whole blaster, assuming that it is the one mag that's wrong and not the other way around. And I'll have to change every mag. Anyways, I think it's safe to say one mag is messed up. Anyway, I'm gonna call it a night on that one. Tonight I am quite impressed, and I do like it. It's not, it's not as I guess realistic as some of the metal ones. It is a full nylon blaster, but I don't mind that. I don't think having everything all metal all of the time is necessarily the best idea. I do like these nylon blasters. It kind of makes me a little bit nostalgic from the old days. Alright, well, I'm going to leave it at that. Don't forget that you can get a patch off me by messaging me on Loguido's Chopters Facebook page. You just message me, that's how you do it. Old school, message me, I'll mail one out to you. Oh yeah, and if you want to support the channel in other ways without necessarily buying a patch, if you want to just throw some support in there, you can buy me a coffee, and I will give shout outs to Steve Pierce, Rip, someone who was anonymous. No, it was Thomas. He bought me a coffee anonymously, but then he emailed me later. Shout outs to Thomas, and shout outs to Adam Hoy. Thank you for watching, and happy blastering. Go get yourself an MPX, they're pretty sweet. Peace. Oh wait, you guys want to see a chrono of after, don't you? Alright, here we go. Hopefully I got the mag that's not feeding backwards. Not too bad an improvement there. Decent little punch. Thanks for watching, guys. Peace.